Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Talk of the Town. I'm glad to be here this week, and I'm glad to have this guest with us this week because it's somebody that I've known for quite a while and somebody that I've never had on the show before, which is a screaming tragedy. So we're going to spin this camera around and introduce everybody out there to somebody that I think is real special, and his name is Derek Ramsey. He is an instructional design coordinator and esports coordinator right here at Cleveland Community College and used to be my coworker right here at Cleveland Community College.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
I know, we were just sitting here talking about it. It's funny how time just goes, whoa, and gets away from you, isn't it?
Sure enough, yeah, it's wild.
I know, but here you are. Here I am. This is great. It's so glad for us to have you on the show. And, you know, I don't know if you read the fine print on the contract, but it's just like happened before with one of our guests. You know, if you didn't read the fine print, once you sit in the red chair, you're required to come back.
Hey, happy to do so.
Happy to do so. See,
Happy
I
to do so.
knew that's
Anytime.
Anytime. Oh, now you're real in trouble. Because you know we'll just be looking at open slot one day and say, "Hey, call Derek. We'll drag him back down here." Now I know this shirt ought to give us a clue as to what we're talking about today, and there might be some folks out there that go, "What is he wearing?" You're going to tell us all about this because this is a fascinating topic. It is a wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. So glad to have you. And we're going to focus on that last part of how I introduced you, esports coordinator. And people are probably thinking, what in the world is an esport? Now, I think we couldn't find a better place to start than right there. So I'm just going to wind you up and turn you loose and tell us what an esport is.
Absolutely. So esports are basically a giant business right now. You know, we're looking at competitive video gaming. Video games of all types, of all formats, sports games, fighting games, MOBAs, platformers, racing games, all sorts of games that are pitting the best of the best against one another. You know, when you're looking at professional esports, it's for big, big money nowadays. And we've brought it here to Cleveland Community College as a part of something we can have for our students.
Now, when you say video games, you know, I'm as old school as they come. I'm thinking pinball, Pac-Man. I'm thinking, you know, going to we used to like to go to the local pizza place because they had a pinball machine there and they had a Pac-Man machine in the middle of the floor. So we were as excited about playing Pac-Man as we were eating pizza. It's gone way beyond this. Way beyond this.
Very much so.
Esports is not something even that you go to a place to do now. You tell us a little bit how these games work for those that are complete novices.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can just kind of frame it in the way that we do it with our competitions here. So all of our esports matches here are sanctioned by the NJCAA, which is the National Junior College Athletic Association. And that's the exact same as what happens with our baseball team, our softball team. You know, they're all sanctioned by the NJCAA. So we are playing schools from across the country, right? As we're taping it, today we have matches tomorrow against schools in New Jersey, against schools in Wisconsin. And we're not going there thanks to the power of the internet, right? Mm-hmm. All the games happen long distance through the internet. The students at the different schools get together through the game consoles online, play each other online. They can do so from the comfort of their own home if they want. You know, there's no rules about where they have to play, although a lot of them like to come in when possible, just because, you know, we got some really nice facilities here on campus. But yeah, we're just playing people all across the country through the power of the internet.
So the games that they play are games that would be commonly available to me or you or anyone else that buys one of these gaming systems like a PlayStation or an Xbox or something like that we hear about.
Or a PC.
Or a PC. And the games themselves are just the software games that they're playing. And most of these games, even outside of esports, can involve players, multiplayer modes, where they're playing people from around the country or other folks. And you're just doing it competitively.
Right.
Now, how do you determine, because I know athletes, you know, they have to run the 40-yard dash or whatever. How do you find out if someone's good enough to be on an esports team?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I mean, you know, kind of unfortunately, right? Like we're still you know, we're 3 years in, we're still kind of growing our program, so we don't have a huge program as of yet. Always trying to get bigger, always recruiting more. So if you're out there and you're interested in esports at Cleveland Community College, you're a student here, you know a student here, send them my way. Tell them to let me know, right? But so as of yet, I haven't really had to do a whole lot with tryouts or anything like that. But we have had some things where, you know, a lot of people nowadays, even when they're not playing competitively, they're streaming, they're recording, they make videos of themselves playing. I've, you know, reviewed tape of some students who said, "Oh, you know, I really want to be on this team. You think I can? You think I'm good enough?" Or, you know, I've had students play against one another. You know, I had this past fall, I had 2 students who were both Mario Kart players. Fortunately, with Mario Kart, we could have both teams play, but as a part of their practice and kind of iron sharpening iron, as it were, you know, they would play each other, and we could see who'd win there, you know, and just the and they'd kind of go back and forth, and it was good, right? Like, it helped them build their skills as they played each other. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, that's one of the big things that I try to get at with them, is just this idea that, like, look, you know, we want to win, right? We want to be competitive, we want to win, we want to do great for Cleveland Community College. Like, that's a big goal. But winning's not everything, and it's still a video game, right? So we want to have some fun doing it too. You know, if it's not, like, if you're not having fun playing video games, you're doing it for the wrong reason. So, yeah, just a lot of playing.
Now, when I was, I retired 5 years ago. Actually, I was thinking about that. It was 5 years ago this month that I retired. And when we were, and we were coworkers at that time, and this was in discussion. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to set. In fact, I actually saw one of the first rooms that we were putting a big logo you put on the wall. And tell us, how did Cleveland find their way into this, or how did esports find Cleveland? How did that happen?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's sort of a, you know, there's a bit of a history there. You know, it got on the radar of several people at the school. You know, one of the things that I can say is, you know, the college president, Dr. Hurst, he's got a big vision for this college. He's come in and he's led with vision, and it was one of the things that was on his radar. You know, is to have something for, you know, Cleveland Community College students, some of which, you know, not everybody's going to go out and be a great baseball player or a great track and field star or softball player or basketball player, but a lot of people can be good at video games. And so that's just something else that we can have for the Yetis as a means for them to participate, get involved in the school, take pride in being a Cleveland Community College Yeti. And so it was something that was brought up, like, hey, you know, this would be great for our students here. And the conversation came back, well, who can do it? Who has this sort of experience? Who's aware of it? And it just so happened that, you know, I could do a lot of the stuff that was surrounding it, and I was willing. So, you know, it kind of fell into my lap as far as all of that. And about 3 years ago, right after some extensive planning, after several meetings, after figuring out how everything would work, about 3 years ago, we fielded our first teams and played our first games. And so this is our 3rd year, our 6th season of competitive esports here at Cleveland Community College. There are 2 seasons in a year for esports, which is different than basically every other sport.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
Right, we have a fall season and a spring season, so it just gives a whole lot of opportunities for students to get involved and, you know, take pride in what they do here at Cleveland.
And I appreciate what you said too about Dr. Hurst, because that's one of the things that I've noticed. But, you know, some people might have looked at that and said, well, we're not getting into that. but he does have that vision. He wants as much as possible for people to be able to find that niche, for people to be able to find how can I you know, participate, not just academically, but how can I participate here And it grows the culture, doesn't it? It grows
Oh, yeah.
the part of who the name the Yetis. I was so excited when they chose the Yetis because I remember the name competition that came from that, and some of the names that were put forth, I was like, oh, please don't choose that. And some people were saying that about the Yetis, but boy, it has been embraced, and it's like that. It's like, okay, let's do what will broaden the institution and be more inclusive and fun. It's fun to be a
Absolutely.
Yeti. It is just so much fun to be a Yeti. Just fun to be able to wear a shirt like that and say, you know, I compete in this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that is the coolest thing. It's like I was telling you, my grandkids would go absolutely ape over that shirt. They would take it right off your back because so many people identify with video games. Now, one thing I'll ask, and I know we're going to take a break here in a second, but how does one choose the games that they participate in? Is that chosen for you, or do you guys choose, or every year do they come out with a slate and say these are the games that you're going to be or have the opportunity to participate in or challenged to participate in?
Yeah. So the NJCAA esports, they sanction a slate of games, and then basically students get to choose based on what they're good at, based on what they like, what they want to participate in, and if we get enough to field a team in that game, we run the team, right? Other schools, other places have been like, we only want to field teams in maybe Overwatch or maybe some other game that they're kind of more familiar with. But I'm more open than that. I'm just like, hey, if we can get enough people to play it, I will field a team. We've ran teams in Overwatch, in Valorant, in Rainbow Six Siege, Mario Kart, Tekken, chess on chess.com.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Like, if we get somebody that's interested in playing any of the games that are listed on the NJCAA website, which is njcaaesports.org, then I'm willing to let them play. And I'm willing to find that niche.
Well, what we're going to do, I'd love for us to come back and talk a little bit after our break about the competitions and also the side that you mentioned at the very beginning that we've not gotten back into. A lot of this is fun. And it's approached to Cleveland from a fun aspect.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a lot of money. There's a lot of big money. Most people don't realize the professional aspect that goes along with this. So let's talk a little bit about that too, if we could.
Oh yeah.
All right. So if you're going to leave and you're going to go to your refrigerator or you're going to go get in a quick game of Mario Kart, you got to come back because there's more talk of the town right after this.
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
Here in Cleveland County, many children struggle to develop due to the lack of guidance and shortage of positive role models. At the Boys and Girls Club, we make it our team's mission to aid your child in becoming a better student and, more importantly, a better person with a brighter future.
When your child comes to the club, you can be assured they are being guided in a manner that is beneficial to the growth as an adult that is visible in their lives. Please consider giving your child the opportunity to be the absolute best they can possibly be.
Please support your local Boys and Girls Club today.
Hello, this is Steve Putnam, still sitting right where you left me, and Derek is still sitting right where you left him, and we're getting ready to talk about some more esports. And so if you went to the refrigerator and momentarily blacked out, we're talking about esports today. And so we're going to swing the camera around, and Derek's been telling us all about Cleveland Community College's participation in esports. And I know from your perspective and for Cleveland Community College's perspective, it's about inclusion, it's about fun, it's about people joining in, having an identity, identifying with the school and with one another, and having that team concept. And it's brilliant. Like I said, it's just brilliant, the concept that's been introduced not only on the track and field and baseball field and so forth and so on, but in this area as well, and getting people to identify both with the institution, one another, the team sports and everything. And you're right up in this, and the perfect choice, by the way, for the person to run this whole endeavor. But this is big business, isn't it?
Definitely big business.
And I know that the competitions here are serious competitions. They're treated as just like any other sporting activity.
Oh yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that aspect of it, and then let's talk about sort of what the professional level of this looks like, or what they could potentially attain to participate in beyond this.
Yeah, well, you know, like you said, it does get really competitive. You know, this past fall, actually, it got pretty intense. Our Tekken player actually made it to the Elite Eight of the tournament. So out of 62 players, I believe it was, you know, he made it into the top 8 in the field. Unfortunately, lost before getting to the Final Four. And, you know, one of the things that a lot of our players find out, right, as they're getting into esports is, you know, they think they're really good, right? And they are, you know, they are really good. But they, you know, they think they're kind of the best because they're the best among their friends, and then they meet somebody from New Jersey or Michigan or Wisconsin or Oregon or Texas that's the best among their friends. And it gets really sweaty, and they have a hard time. And it's a lot of times a wake-up call, right? When they play that first match and they get beat, or they had a hard time because they're not used to that, right? So, you know, sportsmanship is another thing that I try to bring to it as well, right? Because, like, you might not think about it just because, like, it's a video game that's being played across the internet, but it gets intense. And, you know, I've been in the room with some of these players that are playing because I typically try to broadcast it when they're playing. And it gets intense, and when they win, there's just this, you know, there's this explosion of joy, the pop-off, the gamers call it, you know, they pop off. And when they're losing, you know, they can get tilted, you know, they can get upset. And, you know, that's another thing that we have to work through a lot is like, hey, you know, we got to try to, you know, even though we might be losing here, we got to keep our heads up, we got to keep going. One play can change this whole thing around, right? So it's intense competition, it's a lot of back and forth. Our Yetis are doing great. This is our Mario Kart player so far has a winning record for the season. So we hope that holds and they get pretty far in that. Everybody's doing really good. Competition's high, yeah.
Now, when they get to, like, there's a tournament each, so there'll be one this semester as well. Moving on, so when this starts, how many teams are competing at the beginning? 64, did you say?
Well, it all depends on the game, right? And so, you know, just like kind of how I said earlier, like I'll take any players that want to play for any game. You know, other schools are like that too, right? So they might have a ton of schools playing a certain game. They might only have a handful for a lot of the, what they call Premier Series, which is their top tier, which is what we're playing Mario Kart in this time around. They'll take that and they'll break it up into divisions, like you'll see other sports do. So we're in the Eastern Division, and then when it comes time, they'll take the top 3 teams from each division and they'll put them into the tournament. You know, so a lot of it really mirrors traditional sports in that sort of way.
It's March Madness.
Absolutely.
so there you go.
Except ours will be in April.
April Madness.
April Madness.
That's cool. Now, when all of this is over and they're out in the world, and there's a professional level of this that goes beyond college, and how does that work?
Yeah, well, there's a semi-professional, professional level to it, even in community college. Like, you know, we haven't had anyone fortunate enough to have an opportunity like this here yet, but there's another community college in the state of North Carolina. The name of the community college eludes me right now. I'm sorry to them. But they actually have an esports player on an NIL deal. So they're making money as a community college esports player.
Oh, wow.
You know, represented through their NIL deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So if that continues and they continue, of course, that level of success, there's a step and a grade even above that, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there is competitive esports. There's a lot of big professional competitive esports in the United States now and globally, right? Overwatch, Valorant, League of Legends. These are all games that have big international professional esports components where, they're big tournaments in North America, South America, Asia, with international players coming together. And the prize pools are totaling millions of dollars.
Wow.
It's not quite as big now as it was a few years ago, but it's still pretty massive.
And it's something that most people outside of the gaming community were even aware of.
No idea. Yeah.
No idea that it's even there. But it's and like you said, the internet is where all this takes place. It all happens out in the cloud, and so it is possible for someone here to participate in an international event just from their bedroom.
Sure.
From their setup.
Absolutely.
There was actually a movie about this not too many that I watched, Gran Turismo, about so because they they had some of these elements of competition in that movie, and I know when the movie was over, my wife looked at me and said, "Is that real? Do they really do that?" I was like, "Yes, they do. Yes, they really do." Now, not many of them actually get to drive real race cars, but that was something that did happen. I found out the movie had some elements of it that were true.
There are some big. Racing video game tournaments, and they are, driving in simulators, and it gets really involved, really competitive, and there's big money tied to that.
So now the equipment that you have here, I know on that particular game, there was a lot of emphasis on you got to have the right wheel, you got to have the right to get the right feel, you got to have the right equipment to get the view that you need to participate well. Do you guys have setups like that here? Or?
So when it comes to setups, right, we got some nice computers here, and that's about what we provide. My gamers are pretty particular in terms of what they use to
their own equipment.
for their peripherals, right? So they'll bring in their keyboards, they'll bring in their mice, they'll bring in their game pads, because they got to be just so, right? They gotta have
that's true.
They got to have that twitch right there that they can just, that key press that they're used to, that they know, like, oh yeah, I did it right when they do it like that. And so if they get on some other peripheral, some other system, their play might be a little off, because so we got to have them familiar with what they know.
So it's a combination. You provide like the core system, and then they may bring their own.
Right.
And this guy's setup may look completely different than.
Absolutely.
And that's allowed. And that's what the game, the competitions, that's a part of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a set of rules for certain games about certain types of controllers that would be disallowed. With like these special buttons that'll, like, you can pre-program to do certain actions and that sort of thing. But when it comes to just general peripherals, it's preference. That's a big marketplace too. There's a lot of that stuff out there. I try to stay up to date on it to where we can have some stuff if people need it, and give them the best opportunity.
So I guess, do you act as the referee then to make sure everybody's using what they're supposed to?
Yep. That's part of my responsibility, is that I'm supposed to try to keep everything above board. So there's no, in NJC esports competition, there's no real referee as it's basically the honor system and both coaches working together to try to make sure all the rules are upheld. If there's something off, right, if something doesn't feel right, that's when they can kind of tell, like, hey, maybe not all the rules are being followed here, because when you get into these games, like, you get so familiar with how things should work, and that's one of the things when, like, the players are getting their strategies together. They know, like, okay, well, players who play at this level will typically do this here, and if they see something that's way out of the ordinary, then that throws off red flags. And so it's at that point where they might say, hey, like, we need to review that game footage, or hey, we need to look at this or look at that, or whatever. So they do, like, require all the Premier Series games, all the top tier games to be recorded, so that review of footage can happen just in case there's something that may seem a little off. And It's the two teams working together to try to make sure that all the rules are upheld and all the sportsmanship is in place. Because it might, like, if you cheat to win, it's not really that fun. You know, it's more fun to win when it's your skill that actually did the winning.
We just need to call you Coach Ramsey, because that's what you're doing. You're actually, they're coming with the skills that they have, but what you're teaching them is how to lose, how to be graceful when you win, and how to lose, and have sportsmanship, and how to participate as a team and be there. You're a coach.
Hey.
You're Coach Ramsey. So that's what I'm going to call you from now on. Just going to say,
Fair enough.
Hi, Coach. That is pretty awesome. Now, I know that this is to where you are so far. In the last couple of minutes we've got here, where do you see it going from here?
That's a good question. You know, I'd like to see it continue to grow. We're still pretty small. Like, no matter how much outreach I try to do, no matter how many events I try to show up at, how much I try to send out, I still get people telling me, "Oh, I didn't know we did that."
Right.
So, that's kind of, that can be kind of discouraging a little bit sometimes, because it's like, "Oh man, I did this and this and this and this, and they still don't know." And I'm here right now, and I'm trying to let you know, hey, we got this going on. So I'd like to see it grow. I'd like to see us be able to do more. I'd like to be able to see at some point Cleveland Community College get a full esports arena. I see some of these other schools, they, on the Discord for all the coaches and stuff, they have this little area where like the schools can post pictures of their gaming arenas and stuff like that, and I get jealous. Because some of these places have some real nice setups. LEDs everywhere, nice fancy computers, big comfortable chairs, the top of the line everything, right? And it's just for esports and gaming, dedicated space, and they look really cool. And I'd like to see something like that happen here.
Well, I can see it happening. So you've come this far. I'm looking forward to seeing your arena. Now, I know that we've talked about a lot, and we've covered it. We've only got like 30 seconds left. If folks want more information about this, how could they do that?
One of the best things to do is to reach out to me directly. I think they might put my email on
right there. It is
on the screen down here.
Except it should say Coach Ramsey at Cleveland.
Maybe we'll work on getting
work on that. You got to work on that.
Yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with me. I got a bunch of information that I can send out to you. So if you or somebody you know is a student here, even if they're a CCP student, that's a cool thing about that. This is the only sport that a CCP student can take part in. There's no age or graduation requirements to it. All you have to do is either be a full-time student or take in the credits that you need to graduate.
And you're in.
And you're in.
Awesome.
I'd love to have you.
That is awesome. Well, thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
I look forward to you coming back real soon.
Looking forward to it.
All right, and thank you for being here and for watching our show. If you don't watch the show, we don't have a show. So I really appreciate that as well. I also appreciate story ideas, because who knew we had esports, right? We do, and it's wonderful. There are also so many wonderful things that are going on right here in Cleveland Community College, right here in Cleveland County, all around us. If you know about that and we don't, use this email, info@c19.tv. Let us know what that is. Let us know who those people are so we can get those wonderful, amazing people in these red chairs and share what you know with everyone else. But until then, this is Steve Putnam signing off, saying have a fabulous week.